Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to the latest edition of the Radcast. I am joined for a special edition, I might say, 4 guests in one. 4 in 1 here on the Radcast. We're bringing all the heat today. It's Super Bowl time. Super Bowl just passed, and we thought no better time to kind of talk about the impact of the Super Bowl, and specifically the impact of neuro in marketing. We're going to get brainy today. Specifically, I'm joined by Tyler Lewis here. He is the director of client solutions.
Yes.
Am I getting it right, Tyler?
Yep. Client
I'm going to
solutions.
really dig
Yes,
through
sir.
that here on a Monday.
Yes, sir.
The Monday after the Super Bowl.
And it's basically a blanketed term for arbiter of everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can appreciate those running a company. I don't ever know. I kid. Also joined by Mike Weston, our creative director, and Mr. Josh Hill, our digital marketing manager guru extraordinaire.
The guy.
Yeah.
Ad guy.
Ad guy. Digital media guy. But I joke all the time. We struggle with titles as well because, how many hats do I need you to wear?
Exactly. There's not enough titles.
Appropriate there. But at Neuro-Insight company, Tyler, let's start there. Like let's explain a little bit about what you do, what Neuro-Insight
Sure.
does. Let's knock that out because I think it's cool. It's really interesting what you guys are doing. Let's start there, and then we can kind of get into some of it on the Super Bowl.
100%. Appreciate that. No, so Neuro-Insight is a company that specializes in the art of applying neuroscience to understanding how people respond to creative or content. And the entire crux of what we do is based off of the fact that whenever we watch something or interact with anything, there's 2 different types of processing that happens of content, right? You have explicit processing of things that you can actually like talk to or respond to, being potentially like, do you remember this? Do you like this? Do you like that? Or do you dislike something? And then there's implicit processing, which happens in the subconscious. And the subconscious makes up 90% of our human brain processing. And it dictates how we respond to things or how we act on things later on. So we're able to look at, how the brain is actually responding to things in real time to understand whether or not we're able to communicate effectively the messages that we're trying to communicate to people. And naturally, people will remember things that are memorable or that are emotionally engaging, but it's important for us to use neuro-based methodologies to understand how people are actually responding to content. So our company measures literally brain response with these head caps of how people's brains are responding to content in real time instead of asking people questions on the back end.
This is the future. Like it's like when I was coming up through marketing, it was like, this is what, I can like see it like like here's what we might do one day, like you see flying cars, like and other things. It's like one day we're going to be able to put something on your head and know how you're thinking about it. Like
Sure.
This is it, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
I remember I kind of miss qualitative focus groups because, the snacks were really good.
I'll tell you.
And Nielsen buttons. What happened to Nielsen buttons? I mean,
I'll tell you what.
While they had their brain pad on, brain cap.
Qualitative focus groups are very entertaining, but understanding how people are truly processing information is what we're specializing in. Like, especially again because we're going to get a lot of responses of people telling you in a qualitative focus group what they think you want to hear in a focus group, or understanding of like, what they think they want to know. But at the same time, the subconscious is so much deeper in driving our future action, which is why we exist as a company.
That's cool. Crazy.
Well, if you ask anyone, does advertising work on you? They all say
Exactly.
that.
Exactly.
Yeah, those ads don't work on me, but I did like that commercial.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
Exactly.
usually what you hear. Josh, what's your perspective on all this?
Oh man, ads work on me. I would. There was a time I definitely was like, absolutely not. But now I'm like working in it in the space. I'm like using the algorithm and stuff. And now I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna purposely like trigger my algorithms to show me things so I can buy things. I was like, I want it to work on me.
So as we transition, like we wanted to bring Tyler on because we're gonna have a follow up. This is a 2-part episode. Tyler's team is analyzing a lot of the Super Bowl ads and the ones that supposedly ranked high. We're going to find out if they really rank high on our follow-up episode next week. So 1 and 2, but I do want to just get into a little bit of discussing what we thought of the big game. I don't think we're going to get marked by the Super Bowl. We had Rod and I joke pre-episode, like, can we talk about the Super Bowl? Like the trademark or whatever. I think this is a non-paid podcast, so I think we're good.
So we can say Super Bowl?
We can say Super Bowl.
I mean, the Super Bowl was what I called my bowl of guacamole that I made last night.
Yes. But what was everybody's? I'll start with you, Tyler. I mean, what was your impression of? Hey, look, we're the Radcast. We can talk about whatever the hell we want, like both the game itself and the ads.
Look, I'll tell you what. I think. I'm very biased in this response, but I was very happy that Tom Brady was able to pull off what he did at the age of 43. It was a fairly boring game overall. I think the game was like done after the first half, but overall, like, was very pumped to see that Tom Brady was able to pull it off. Being from Michigan, have a lot of strong ties to Tom Brady and the University of Michigan in general. So, I was very happy. It was very cool to see and witness greatness live. You know what I mean? Like, this is something that we will never see again in our lifetime. So from a game perspective, great. From an advertising perspective, I think people were trying too hard to be safe. You know what I mean? I think that safety was replicated in the number of celebrities that we saw in the advertisements and the amount of like slapstick comedy that was also presented. Because I think we've gotten to a point, especially comparing it to like past Super Bowls, we've gotten to a point where everyone is trying to play it very, very safe. Brands are trying to play it very safe. That's the reason why we haven't seen the amount of like Super Bowl ads being bought as quickly as they used to in the past years. For example, last year, the Super Bowl was sold out in November. CBS didn't sell out their Super Bowl ads until the week before the Super Bowl. So brands are playing it very, 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 very safe. And they didn't take as many risks as they used to. And that being in taking social stances or taking stances in general on their own like brand ideology. People were just trying to make jokes and be entertaining.
Mike, what do you think?
I wonder how much of that. I agree. Absolutely. I think it was one of the lamest years in a long time. But I gotta say, I gotta ask all of us, how much of that had to do with this 2020, this crap hole of a year that we just came out of?
Sure.
Right. And I thought one of the best spots made light of that. The Bud Light seltzer and
Lemons.
When life deals you lemons, you make lemonade.
Yeah,
brilliant.
Absolutely.
I love that. But I think a lot of what we saw is a result of the year that we just came out of.
Yeah.
It continues, frankly. But
Josh, how did you feel overall? Or
I mean, the game was kind of boring. I kind of zoned out on the football game again after halftime. I was like, yeah, this game's over. The boy Patrick's not having fun anymore.
his line couldn't defend against a group of senior citizens.
Hey, look,
I was scrambling. The whole game,
I think all 4 of us could have gotten through that line.
Absolutely. They were pathetic.
I will say, watching Patrick, I mean, he was like horizontal, full body.
That was
he threw the ball 40 yards. I'm like, and the guy dropped it. I was like, how do you throw from that angle?
Yeah, his face after that was
I gave
It's
him
very
Yeah.
telling.
And Patrick's like, he's the nicest guy. Like,
Yeah.
and that was the most eat shit look you'll ever see out of him. Like, what the hell?
I feel for the guy, man. He was trying to do it all on his own. And
Yeah.
you just can't.
I mean, yeah, but like ads wise, I mean, I'm just not surprised by like the amount of like nostalgia, but maybe I guess the extent of the nostalgia push was like a little surprising, and it just seemed everyone was kind of trying to do the whole like grab celebs with built-in audiences. So I was surprised by the amount of social media influencers or like celebs. I think culturally we're finally like recognizing YouTubers and like TikTokers and stuff as like actual celebrities in the like TV world, which is like a lot of times a YouTuber is going to be far more like popular than like a TV actor or a movie actor or stuff like that. So that was interesting from my perspective, because a lot of them kind of had follow up like social media tactics of like they gave David Dobrik the like Mountain Dew car, like, so that was kind of fun, but like it felt like everyone was just kind of phoning it in at the same time of like, yeah, remember when things were good back in the day of these old ads? It's like, we're not going to make any new ones. We're not going to do anything to make things new or exciting or innovative, but let's just like get some memories in.
Yeah, I thought it was overall. We talked a little pre-episode about that, but it felt safe. It felt like no one really knew what tone to take. So to Tyler's point, they defaulted to humor, which is never a bad place. I mean, we all want to be entertained, which is good, but it just felt flat. There were highlights, and we'll get into some of our favorites here shortly, but it just fell flat for me. And I don't know if it was a combination of the games and the ads, but it did make me wonder about the strategies of where you fall. And I guess I don't know how much you can dictate. I know you can choose quarters and things like that, but depending on the spot that you became before or after, I think can sometimes dictate your success, because I found myself like when a really shitty ad would run, like one that I wasn't interested in, I kind of tuned out. And then I halfway didn't pay attention to one that was actually pretty good. The next one, then I'd start. Oh, okay, it catch my attention.
Ryan, you're a damn genius.
My brain would probably tell you something.
Absolutely.
Tyler,
No, 100%. Well, that's something we've done a lot of research on too. Is coming from the perspective of understanding context. Context is so important in how people respond to things, because there's flow, right? If I show you the same advertisement on Facebook versus TV, you're gonna have a very different response to it. Right. And the same thing applies to an emotional game like the Super Bowl, where, you have various like ebbs and flows, and some advertisers are going to be lucky enough to be behind like some big play or touchdown that's going to impact their brand in a certain way. Whereas like if the game gets boring, people are going to tune out and have a very different response. And this is all dictated by what is influencing how we're responding to things in real time. It's almost like, you asked me about neuroscience on a beach versus neuroscience like in this context, we're going to have very different responses to it. Like if we're on the beach, you're gonna be like, what the fuck? Why do you want to talk to me? Like, I don't need you around. But if we're in this context, you're like more engaged, right? So, that has a massive impact on how people are responding as well. And I think the fact that the game was out of hand by the time we got to halfway through the second quarter, everybody else who had spent $5.5 million on their advertisements beyond the second quarter were screwed over,
Yeah.
But that's always been true too. I think about one of my favorite ads, and I'm incredibly biased because I'm a huge Springsteen fan, was the spot that he was in for Jeep, and it came in the fourth quarter after a really lousy game, and I was thinking, how many people are going to react to this, because they didn't see it.
Yeah.
At that point, they'd lost interest in the game and they moved on.
Well, I saw where they did the top 5 searched, and the Jeep ad I think was 2 or 3 in searches, but I think it's because nobody saw it because they were watching the game at that point.
And it was Springsteen.
Yeah, that too. And my only issue, it felt contrived to me. Like I was like at the time, like it was like trying to make a point or something, trying to be somewhat in the throes of understanding how people feel and wanting to bring people together. I don't know. It became contrived to me.
I
know,
like
and you're
Adweek's
right.
take, because Adweek who said it, like, it just kind of rang hollow. And I was
Yeah, in a weird way, like it was so deep, it was hollow.
It seemed-
We're trying
it
to
seemed
be deep.
they're looking at the like
Yeah.
fulfillment. It's like, oh, I guess someone needs to do a come together like ad. I guess we'll do that one. It's like,
Well, it's
Yeah.
interesting because Donor wrote that spot.
Yeah.
And the head of Jeep marketing had been trying to sell his huge Springsteen thing, I guess, to John Landau, Springsteen's producer, for a long time. And Bruce finally bid on it and loved it. And it was really well written. It was a smart idea, the middle of the country. But yeah, you're right. It's the Super Bowl.
Mhm.
It's commercials. I got as much as I adore and worship Bruce Springsteen, it was kind of disingenuous.
Yeah.
You know? And they didn't overtly try and sell Jeep, and they did sign off, you know, the reunited states of America, but it was a Jeep spot.
Yeah.
Right.
And
And
I don't mind seriousness. You know, I don't mind. Like my favorite spot last year was the Google spot, doing Google Assistant and the old
Loretta.
man giving himself the
Yeah,
reminders. Loretta.
absolutely.
I thought that was the best ad by
Yeah.
like a million miles that last year, and it wasn't
100%,
funny,
yeah.
but it was so. I mean, I was like crying in my seat. I mean, in the middle of like, if you can move that emotion in me when I'm watching a football game, I'm munching on nachos and barbecue sauce all over my face. You know, like I've laughed through 4 other commercials, and then I'm like tearing up in 30 seconds. You've done your job.
Yeah. I mean, the one spot that came close, I thought, but I think it got
Toyota.
yes.
Toyota.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that
100%.
was nice. That was nice. I have to confess, though, I saw the preview of it last week, but I thought it was a wonderful story. I mean, the art direction was wonderful, and but I wonder how many people it was really lost on.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, well, I think Toyota did a good job, but they were able to solidify that spot early in the game, before it got out of hand.
Yeah.
And this was a very unique Super Bowl too, because not only do we have this situation where, you know, we have unique times that people are going to talk about within their advertising. This is the first Super Bowl, when we're talking about context, this is the first Super Bowl where a lot of people can't get together like they used to, right? Back in the day when we were consulting on Super Bowl ads, it was all about like, look, you got to tell a visual story. You got to tell something that doesn't require audio, because 90% of the time people are going to be at a party, probably drinking, and probably, you know, just with a bunch of friends, and you're going to be drowned out. This is the first time that attention was very important, and I think the Super Bowl advertising in this context actually failed at taking advantage of that opportunity to have people's attention, because you can actually like take a message and run with it. I think the best version of that was like some of the social stuff that happened on the side. And I think that was the coolest part of this Super Bowl that I want to talk about as well, is, you know, not the ads themselves, not the $5.5 million that say Anheuser-Busch would pay for a 30-second spot, but it's the social networking, that the Twitter ads that were released like during this time that people were retweeting and talking about, because people had more time to go on Twitter. People had more time to go on social. And those were the things that were trending on Twitter last night, was the things that were social based, things that people weren't served during the Super Bowl itself.
Yeah. And that's a great point about attention, because with COVID, you still had fewer. I'm sure there's some idiots out there like on top of each other, but most reasonable people were, you know, at smaller gatherings or home. And like me, I mean, even I'm in the ad business, and I'm normally paying way more attention probably to the commercials than the average person, beyond just the humor of it or whatever the interest level would be. I definitely was in a more, because I wasn't at a party. I wasn't like, I was definitely, it's a great insight. And I think it even makes me actually think they failed more. I don't know. Like they had a moment in time that to do something bold, and I don't even, that's where I thought like the Jeep was like trying to be bold. Like it was just like trying too hard or something. Like that was what it was. But yeah, just missed opportunities. But I know, Josh, you picked up on some of the social stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I was I mean, as soon as the game was getting boring, I was watching the commercials, but during the game, I was scrolling through TikTok, and I saw Tide had a bunch of kind of like 200 to like 2 million follower like channels on TikTok. Like they made their own hoodie with their own face on it, and they were getting that dirty and like talking about it. I think they had probably like 10 or 15 like different influencers use that. I saw like David Dobrik had the Mountain Dew car. He gave it away to one of his buddies, and like that's like a guaranteed like 5 million extra impressions right there.
Right.
And then people are going to be sharing that too. Like I think it's the extensions and like the Instagram ads of like clips of the ad so that you recognize it when you see it on the TV. I think it just helps reinforce, but it's definitely interesting.
Well, I mean, if you look at, so this morning in preparation too, was just looking at some of the winners of the Super Bowl. And the winners of the Super Bowl were not people who paid money to advertise in the Super Bowl. The winners of the Super Bowl were people who ran social campaigns, you know, or didn't even like bother to like very, very legacy Super Bowl advertisers who decided not to advertise and just focus on social, like Budweiser, you know, had a more of an impact on people's mindset about their brand than the advertisers themselves.
Yeah,
Totally.
well, when an ad's not an ad.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
I mean, we've seen that before of people who, I mean, they did it as commercials too, but like when they went around the Super Bowl, but didn't actually like the Old Spice, like look at your man, now look at you, like now look back at your man. Like that was not a Super Bowl ad. It ran before Super Bowl and it ran after. But a lot of people will remember it as that because it's there. And then Instagram and YouTube was really heavy with them too. I think capturing that second screen of like what's in your hand of during the commercials or during the boring parts of the game. Like again, if you're at a party or if you're home alone, like you're gonna be on your phone way more often either way.
What do you think? What did everybody think of the Reddit execution, the 5-second ad?
I think it was great. I think they did a really good job of disrupting because we're sitting here talking about it right now. That means it had a pretty awesome impact. And the timing was perfect too. And when we're talking about timing and Reddit in general, how about the Robin Hood ad? Right, which the Robin Hood ad was the second to last on the ad meter, right? You know, given the recent context of what Robin Hood has influenced with GameStop, right? What do we think about that?
I thought they I liked that they stayed in a way, but I hoped that they were going to not be tone deaf, and they were, because they didn't change it. I think that was the spot they were going to run 2 months ago.
That was
in the can, like, and I would have done something more organic. I would have either apologized or like I don't know, but you can't call yourself Robin Hood, and be blocking, I mean, like,
exactly,
it's like the complete antithesis of what you position yourself,
right?
Yeah, we're trickle down trading.
Instead of like just hoping that maybe not enough people know about you and running a general awareness brand spot about how your Robin Hood is just bullshit.
Yeah, they were tone deaf.
I think one of the issues too is like Robin Hood would have had to screen lock that pre the issue that we ran into. So they would have had to screen lock that with CBS last week. So one of the things that we're seeing too is like, you know, they probably had this ad bought already, then, you know, found themselves in a bowl of shit, if you will. And, you know, just like reacted in the best way possible. But, you know, at the same time, like their reaction was not as positive as like
they could have, you know what, honestly, not to belabor Springsteen and G, but they just shot that spot last week.
Yeah.
You know, Robin Hood could turn around and done something really simple in a very short period of time.
I would have, they needed to make a gesture or do something and just to put your head in the sand and act like it didn't happen. You know, it just is what it did. Like, we live in a day and age where, you know, and I've built an agency around it about this notion of real time, the ability to impact. And, you know, the fact that, and in TV now, like you said, they recorded, they did it last week.
Everything.
Like that capability is here. Like, you can do these things and turn these things around and leverage the insight, because this is what's happening is we now have the power to act upon these things that are happening so quickly, and to just not take advantage of that just felt like a complete lost opportunity.
Well, I think that's a good point, Ryan. When we talk about just reactivity and ability to react on these things in general, is like, I don't want to make it way too massive about like TV is a dying breed, but you guys do a really good job of like taking advantage of social and taking advantage of being really incredible social marketers on Instagram, on TikTok, et cetera, as you think about TV and how we advertise on TV, one, we're losing viewership. Two, you lose reactivity. On social, you can react immediately, right?
Yeah.
And, something that happens within, the week that you have to be the Super Bowl into the Super Bowl is going to make a massive impact on like how people respond to you. And like the example of this is Robinhood in general. It's like they had to like lock their ad last week, had a very poor response to it. Whereas on social, you can be very more dynamic in the way you advertise, and you can take advantage of the times, because we're in a point in time where we're adapting every single day to the news that we see. And we start to think about, and this is one thing too that we have to address, is the Super Bowl even worth it anymore? You know what I mean? Like, we may have reach, but do we have actual effectiveness? And do we actually see ROI on this?
Yeah, I think I did Josh and I did an episode, and I effectively called mass marketing dead. So I think everyone that listens to Radcast knows where I stand on this.
That was a humble plug, too.
But no, it's like, but that's what again, the reach is incredible, and the awareness you can get. I still think there's value. I don't know if the ROI pays off, but you get 10 billion people. I mean, I don't know what the number is exactly.
Yeah, so last night I saw projections of 148 million. Last year was 98.4 million. So I mean, you get that reach, but again,
but you got to use it. I think it's still
right.
I think it just goes back more to the execution. Like it's
absolutely.
It's not enough to just have that reach and throw something out there, safe or otherwise. Like, and I mean, as much as I hate it, and I'm sure everyone did, but the Oatly thing with the guy singing, which I think was stupid and bad on purpose,
right? Yeah,
but like I at least respected it for trying to do something different, in its own way. As much as I hated it, I hated it.
I was about to bring that up.
But
it's like finally someone. It was so refreshing because like finally someone is being like, we're not gonna be for everyone. It's sort of like my favorite like Liquid Death water company. Like they sell water and they're calling themselves Liquid Death, and it's got like a skull on the can, and it's just like, they're not trying to appeal to everyone, and it's like, yes,
I respected that more than the Jeep spot. Yeah. So what does that tell you?
Right.
I mean,
you're a Republican.
I mean, the Oatly ad too was just such a. I mean, that was also one of the worst rated ads, and I think when we think about it, it's like, why was that? Like, but also, is being bad also kind of okay for your brand? You know what I mean? Because people are
talking about it.
Exactly, 100%. I mean, if we go back to some of the work that we've done with Pepsi, I know that for example, the Kendall Jenner ad after they had the big blow up. But one of the things is that, or if we think about politics as well, it's like, is negative publicity bad publicity, or is it just publicity, right? Because the things that we're not going to talk about are the things that are going to be ranked between number 5 and number 45 in the ad meter. The things we're going to talk about are ranked 65 and below, or 1 through 5, right? And I think Oatly being one of them is like, maybe was it so bad that it was good, and was it a creative, like, was it actually maybe more effective because it was bad? Is the thing that I'm looking forward to looking into next week.
I'm looking forward to it too. And if I was a betting man, I bet you it tests neurally well.
Yeah.
if I'm phrasing
Sure.
that correctly, Tyler, with my
Yeah,
my brain analytics.
Yeah. I mean, you're gonna notice. I'd be noticing the bottles in the store like way sooner now. Like,
Oh yeah, you're gonna see it. Like I think it
Right.
elevated their brand awareness, and it was terrible. But I think they were. I think it was brilliant. I think they knew exactly.
Yeah.
He knew it was bad.
Yeah.
Part of me, when I first saw it, I was like, "Oh God, this guy just was the CEO and wanted to be in his own spot." And then I watched it a little longer, and I'm like, "They know exactly what they're doing right here.
Yep.
They know it's bad, but they want it to be bad."
Absolutely.
Well, I know at the little super spreader I was at, everyone kind of stopped and what the? But there was silence finally.
Yeah.
Everyone watched the
It
video.
ended.
And then it's like, what the?
Which I think that's my favorite kind of humor. Is like, yeah, there was the self-aware like Wayne's World humor or whatever, but like I feel like the true humor is where people are like, what is happening right now?
Yeah.
But maybe my brain's broken. Can you scan that, Tyler? Is that a thing we can?
We could send you the time and money. It is broken.
Yeah.
But I think one thing to kind of address, there's a couple things, but the one thing to address, like first and foremost, is like Rocket Mortgage for the first time was able to get 1 and 2 on the ad meter, which is incredibly, like, you know, you've never seen that on the ad meter. And this is how brands think about the Super Bowl as well. It's like, from the clients we've worked with, they want to win the ad meter, and the ad meter is like such a, forgive my language, bullshit, like understanding of how things, like how people respond to things. Because it's just like, do you like it or do you not like it? At the end of the day, people are not going to remember Rocket Mortgage. Tracy Morgan is going to get most of the you know, like traffic on this. Like he's the, yeah, exactly. Like he's the one who's getting followers today. Rocket Mortgage is not getting anybody new who's going to like get Rocket Mortgage today, you know?
Yeah.
So,
You know,
go ahead.
What I heard, so it's talking about 1 and 2 on the ad meter. So I was watching one of the news shows this morning. Full disclosure, I do watch television. And they were talking about how they were using Rocket Mortgage, effectively used other influencers, other people that are Rocket Mortgage influencers, Ricky Fowler, to encourage all their millions of followers to go to ad meter and vote for the Tracy Morgan ads.
Right. Sure. Exactly. And that's gaming the system. And that's how, you know, people are also going to, you know, utilize this as, you know, a win for them. But again, that's what comes back to what we do is, like, at the end of the day, if we're using influencers to vote for something, if we're using celebrities to actually, like, you know, try to communicate some sort of like emotional, like, you know, response, the celebrity is going to be the person who actually drives impact. What we can do as a neuroscience company, understanding how people respond to information, is if you don't communicate your brand, then you're completely screwed, right?
Yep, exactly. You got the moment in time there. Like, just making something that's funny and throwing your logo at the end, I just don't think you're getting it done.
Right. Absolutely. And I think that was what we saw, and what we consistently see in Super Bowl creative is the inability to integrate a brand into your advertising to make your brand affable and, you know, relatable. You know what I mean? I think one of the best examples of this that I've seen in my work is, you know, last year there was a Colgate ad with Luke Wilson, and he was talking about how he had really bad breath, and that was the whole joke. But what people do is they try to create a story, they try to create a film in 30 to 60 seconds and then throw their brand at the end. But at that point, people are already turned off. People are already like, okay, I got the story, I'm done.
But I gotta take issue with that for just a moment. And granted,
absolutely,
I've been in this business a long time, and I've had to forget everything I knew over the last 25 years just to immerse myself in digital. But I still think people want to be entertained, want to be sucked in, and that's I was taught, and I believe that you need to entertain people or inform people. draw them in, suck them in. I think that Colgate spot was brilliant because I watched it all the way to the bloody ankles.
Exactly.
It was interesting. It was fun. It was entertaining. And I know Google has these retarded rules and YouTube about you've got to get your name in there in the first seconds. I think that's the way to turn people off.
Right. No, I agree with you 100%. So there's two things there, and coming from from our perspective as well, is I hear this all the time too, because a lot of the insights that we deliver as a company is how do we optimize our advertising? A lot of the times it's all about taking advantage of the most impactful scenes in an ad, which is not dictated by timing. It's not going to be the first 5 seconds or the last 5 seconds. It's not like the middle 15, whatever it may be. You have to find those scenes that people engage with and throw your brand on top of that. But the problem that we deal with as an industry is humans have become accustomed to being very turned off by advertising. We don't want to be like the normal consumer, like we're all advertising folks. We love advertising. It's fun for us. But like everybody else doesn't love that at all. So what we see is we have this thing called conceptual closure, where the last 50 years of advertising, if not more, has been very formulaic. It's 27 seconds of advertising or a story, and then you have 3 seconds of branding. The brain has been conditioned to shut off right before branding, and people will just like not remember what's going on. Right? You have to take advantage of those moments and those elements that are very impactful, that allows you to put your brand in the best light. And the formula for advertising needs to change. And that's the thing that we're trying to get to. Like we needs to change, because when you look at data, for example, like a very like simple example of this as well, is when people there have been many eye tracking studies done when people go onto Google. When people go onto Google, they're going to immediately jump to the fourth or fifth search result, because they know the first 4 or 5 are ads. And
I do that.
And this is how we change this. And like we got to be better at brand integration. We got to be better at like telling a story about our brands. Sure, you can use celebrities, but don't make sure that your celebrities are not taking from your brand itself. Make sure that they're not attention vampires. And you have to tell a very positive story about your brand that relates to your brand, right? You can make a sweet, cute, viral video that will be fine, and people will like engage with it, and like you might be lucky if your brand is integrated with it. But as a brand itself, as we've changed neurologically as well, through 1, COVID, through 2, quarantines, through 3, over the years being conditioned to this stuff, you have to be able to tell a story that consumers can engage with, because the biggest consumer in the world, the consumers that are going to be able to like drive some sort of like response, are the people who are going to be like feel like it's a personal thing to them. And that's why Facebook advertising is really good. That's why Instagram advertising is really good, is because it's embedded within a very personal space. And that's how we can like fix TV advertising, is like by driving some sort of personal connection. But unfortunately, we're still, a lot of the big TV ads that we see are going to be dictated by the old, Don Draper,
Not that old.
The old Don Draper aesthetic, though, which is like, I'm going to pay $5 million to have this like really great celebrity. But that's not going to convert anything. It's only going to get Drake more listens on Spotify. It's not going to make sure that you are selling State Farm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I thought we saw it a little bit. It was the only thing I liked about the Wayne's World spot. But I thought someone was going to be smart enough to do a TikTok ad for the ad.
Yeah.
Like using everything that is a TikTok video, not ad, excuse me. But just that whole notion, edited, used, done as TikTok, I think it would have performed well. And I think, because again, the attention spans there, and obviously with the brand integrated, I think that's the biggest issue is, yeah, it's great and all. Like the same thing with Rocket Mortgage. Like it was fun, and it definitely they were trying to relate it to the brand, and I get it. It was almost whatever it was. Is it almost a parachute or whatever?
Tracy Mortgage.
Tracy Mortgage. Yeah, but it's like integrating the brand in a way that keeps interest and holds interest, but drives engagement. And I think that's where it failed the most. Like I feel like there was just this opportunity loss, and I think that's kind of like the game itself. So it's like the promise that it was supposed to be.
So you're right, Tyler, on a couple of counts. So yes, those spots, I think we're going to all agree, with the exception of maybe Reddit, right? We're formulaic. Yeah. 25 seconds, 45, 55 seconds, 3 to 5 seconds of branding.
Yeah.
Right. The other thing we always talk about, and which I still think is effective, is reach and frequency.
Yeah.
Right. And a lot of these ads are one-offs. You're never really going to see them again unless it's the 20 greatest Super Bowl spots of all time. The Friday before the big game. So what social media and this brave new world gives us is the ability to take that stuff and to showcase it on TikTok and Instagram and get Tracy Morgan to post. I mean, there's so many venues now to continue the campaign rather than just one and done.
Yeah. But I think last thing I'll say, like real fast, Howard, like think about like two of my favorite Budweiser spots of ever, Bud the Frogs. Why? They're using the name of the brand. The frogs going, but why? And then the Bud Bowl with the bottles with the guy calling the announcer of the game. The bottles are playing football against each other. It's like you're using the product, you're bringing it in. I know that's like straight line, but they were entertaining. Anyway.
So we were having a conversation because we got a lot of very young people working here, and I asked them if they know what the spot was that kind of kicked off this Super Bowl Sunday commercial, gala. Do you remember what it was? What spot it was?
Wait, say that again. It was the
so Super Bowl Sunday had its start. This fascination with watching watching it not just for the game, but also for the commercials.
Yep.
Right. What was the iconic brand? What was the famous spot that kind of kicked this whole thing?
I think it was the Budweiser Clydesdales.
No.
I guess that same thing, Tyler. Mike did this to me. I guess the exact same thing.
Yeah, and it was
high five.
1984. Apple.
Oh yes, absolutely. Oh,
absolutely.
Well, I mean, I'm dressed like Steve Jobs today. So.
Yeah, right.
Turtleneck you have on?
Shia Day created. Ridley Scott directed it. It was a freaking epic.
Yes.
And your jaw dropped. I'm an ad nerd.
Oh yeah, of course.
And it was phenomenal, and it's still a phenomenal spot.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, also the same thing goes. I think it's a really good point too. It's like some of these iconic, just things that people and brands start to own. For example, Budweiser. This was the first year that they did not advertise in the Super Bowl, which goes back to the initial point that we were talking about, which is like, this is a unique Super Bowl where like ads didn't sell out until the week before. Right. So Sam Adams did a regional spot in Boston and New York, like in the Northeast, using the Clydesdales and showing the Clydesdales like running away from their like, I don't know. Yeah, exactly. But here's the thing. It didn't do shit for Sam Adams, to be honest with you. Like, I think it really does a lot for Budweiser as a brand. And it shows how influential Budweiser is. Like, the fact that Budweiser had a ton of news, like I was looking at this like before the Super Bowl too. It's like it wasn't just Ad Age and Ad Week that we're talking about Budweiser not advertising for the first time in years, in over 20 years. It was the Detroit News. It was the New York Times. It was like the Boston Globe. It was the Wall Street Journal, all talking about the fact that Budweiser wasn't advertising. That was very incredible. And that goes again. It's like, you know, the amount of money that people have like obviously paid for advertising to the Super Bowl is great, obviously, but you know, social and you know, acts of like investing money elsewhere, like Budweiser invested their money into you know into what was it, COVID research or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Vaccinations, right? So it's like that is what's going to make a bigger impact, especially in a year like this, and that's why you have so many brands that have backed out as well.
But it was funny. We had our team meeting this morning, and I joked to not have been in the Super Bowl between the seltzers and the Clydesdales being shown on Sam Adams. Like it sure felt like they were in the Super Bowl. But
Yeah,
They really did.
they had the
and the PR. I will say that I joked someone last week. The impressions. If there was anything that could match the impressions they would have gotten buying the Super Bowl, this PR play is probably superseding it for all the press coverage you just talked about, Tyler.
100%.
It's got to be in the hundreds of millions of impressions. The PR they've got in front of it.
That's part of the world of advertising.
Yeah,
absolutely. And then at the end of the day, too, it's like, what is an impression? Does an impression actually make an impression? Which is again like the whole crux of what we do too. It's like, to bring it back to Neuro-Insight, it's like, sure, I can blast past this like post on Instagram or on TikTok, but what we've seen is, is that actually going to drive some sort of memory encoding response? Because half the time when I'm on TikTok or on Instagram or when any of us are, we're just kind of like brain dead and mindless. Like, what is the best? What's the best platform for us too?
Yeah, exactly. So as we're kind of rounding out here with this episode, any I'll kind of roundtable this one as well. Any kind of final thoughts on where we think Super Bowl ads in general, their impact? We got into that a little bit, but I'll kind of roundtable. Any final thoughts, Josh? Start with you.
I definitely could see it being a bigger trend of bringing in more YouTube celebrities and more, I guess, social media people. I think people are still sleeping on how big YouTube is. It's like the second most trafficked website, period. There's just I think there's huge like celebrities, people with built-in audiences who spend hundreds of dollars a month on merch for a single human. You tie them in a brand, they're gonna buy from that brand. They all have rich parents and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I can see that happening a lot more. Hopefully a little.
I think that's a really good point. It's like as you think about, and sorry to interject, but it's like it's like as you think about, one, what we've talked about earlier today too is the nostalgia factor. Like we're bringing in like the Bill Murrays of the world if we're talking about last year's Super Bowl, or the John Travoltas, right? And the brands that are bringing in current celebrities, that are current YouTube celebrities that are actually getting more views than anybody else is very, very smart. And I think that's a really, really good point, Josh.
Definitely. I can see a lot more like music celebrities coming in too. I mean, we've seen in the past few years of Cardi B and Travis Scott being some of the biggest celebrities we've had, period. They're just massive and we're using them a lot more. I guess it's all the built-in audiences. I'd like to see a little bit smarter use of nostalgia because I'd like to see some new stuff. I don't want to keep dwelling in the past.
That's why Hollywood keeps making sequels.
Yeah. I keep seeing all those articles of like all the current celebrities just look like old celebrities. They just keep hiring new actors who look like the same people. It's kind of freaky. I'll have to show those.
Yeah. Any final thoughts from you, Mike?
Yeah, it's the fact that yes, it took a while to sell out in terms of media this year, but it sold out, and it still speaks to the fact that it is an unofficial American holiday, and people do tune in to watch not only the game but the spots. I don't think that's going to change, and when it does is the year that my beloved New York Jets are back in the Super Bowl, and I'll probably be dead by then.
Definitely. Tyler, any final thoughts? I know we're teasing next week. We're going to see some of the results from Neuro-Insight's studies that you guys are doing on some of those ads, but anything as it relates to the Super Bowl or neuro-analytics?
100%. Well, first things first, the Jets will never make it back to the Super Bowl. That's number one.
Hey, you're in my hometown there. Show some respect, young man.
Hey, let's go Giants, baby.
I'll go blue. I'll root blue too.
but the big thing, I think there's a couple things. I think Mike, you brought it up too. It's like, as sometimes negative as it may sound in maybe like the way we present like the investment that it takes to, get a Super Bowl ad in.
Right.
The biggest thing is you got to make sure that it works, right? And understanding storytelling, understanding how people respond to things is the most important thing, which is what we're going to talk about next week. But in general, understanding the context, understanding like, how we can actually drive home a brand message is going to be the most important thing as we go forward, because the Super Bowl is always going to get a ton of viewers. It's always going to be the highest reach. It's always going to be the most expensive. And the thing that really, really pisses me off is when advertisers spend a ton of money on, their ad that's going to be in the Super Bowl and it doesn't work.
Yeah.
It doesn't resonate with people.
Yeah.
The ads that work are the ones that actually translate brand message, and that's how you're actually converting customers. Because otherwise, it's just fodder for people to talk about. You know what I mean?
Here.
So, I think at the end of the day, it's like, that's what we're trying to do. That's what we do as a company. It's like, we understand storytelling. We want to make sure that like your story is being told in the most effective way. And that's what we'll talk about next week.
Cool.
Tyler, where can everyone find more information on both yourself and Neuro-Insights?
Sure. So I can be found on LinkedIn via Neuro-Insight. So you can find us at Neuro-Insight's LinkedIn. Also, my LinkedIn profile is linked to that, so you can find me there. We also have a Twitter and Instagram as well at neuro_insight. So you can find us all over there.
Great, man. Really appreciate it.
Awesome.
The last thing I'll say, guys, is I challenge people, if you're listening, it's going to sound self-serving, but be radical. Like that, if that was my one disappointment of it all, is like, let's push the envelope. I know that we live in a cancel culture, and I know that it was difficult for brands of large size to take risks. I respect that. I understand it as a business owner, but we have to, if I want it, you have to remain vigilant in being creative, being thoughtful, but we've got to continue to push the envelope in what we do, how we do, and how we use the power of social media, but bringing all these things together. So I look forward to looking at the results next week, Tyler, and talking more. Appreciate it, Mike. Appreciate it, Josh. You know where to find us. We're at the.rad.cast on Instagram and the radcast.com at any time, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you so much.